Good afternoon. I'm Deborah Schoen, and today we're here with Viviana Hall as part of our poetry series online. She is an Argentine-born writer, journalist, and a New York State licensed clinical social worker. Her first book of poems, Miedos, or Fears, was published in Buenos Aires in 1977. As a press correspondent, she moved to New York, where in 1982, a re-edition of Miedos, her book Poems on Fears, and her book, a poetry book called Poems of Heaven and Earth, were published. So I just want to thank you, Viviana Hall. She spent the pandemic writing beautiful love poems for us. And it's also bilingual. She'll be reading both in Spanish and in English. So thank you so much for joining our poetry community online here at the library, Viviana. And we appreciate you coming today and reading for us.
Thank you, Deborah, for having me today here. My name is Viviana Hall, and I'm going to read from my last book. The title is Poems of Love, and this is the book. And as Deborah mentioned, the book was born during the pandemic, actually at the peak of the pandemic. It was 2020, and I was in California, unable to return to New York because of, the forced isolation times and the limitations with traveling. So it was born of the desire of pass hope on and checking on the reserves of love we all have, and how can we share that with one another, and that's how it was born, the poem Love in the Time of Coronavirus. Nature always finds a way to face us with our ultimate truth. Yesterday was the avian flu, Ebola, the Black Death. Today it is COVID-19. The question is, what have we learned? Paradoxically, social distance incites to come closer in more meaningful ways besides discovering vaccines. Realizing we are all more alike than different urges mutual cooperation. Person to person, country to country, region to region, eliminating poverty, hunger, homelessness, all abuses of power over human beings and nature to preserve life. So, I am convinced that we all co-create the world we live in, by action or by no action. And every little seed of hope we can plant, every seed that expresses our inner force of love that we all have, it's a wonderful transformative force capable of transforming the individual and the world we live in. So if that is so, then we need some work to do. And that led me to the poem, The Time is Now. To the poem, The Time is Now. I have to find it. In the powerful design that gives us life, days and nights, earth, the stars, the eternal architect brings itself completely. Ungrateful, we have created a conflictive world. War, hate, darkness. There will be no tomorrow. The time is now to be humane. I came to this country almost 40 years ago from my native Buenos Aires, Argentina, to serve as a press correspondent based in New York. And that was a fascinating experience. I was never in New York City before that time. And to see what I call the Mecca of the world, because it's like the mosaic of the world. Here we are, everybody coming from all over in New York, and all the different ethnicities, religions, races, cultures, and all miraculously convive. And so if there is a big change and hope for the world, I think that change is going to come from here, from this place. Not necessarily New York City, but maybe this country, yes, is, somehow I believe that is the legacy we must give to the world and the next generations to be. The book was inspired by, and the concept of the book started a long time ago, and it was inspired by a poem by Walt Whitman, and that's why the book is dedicated to Walt Whitman. After a poem which is Out of the Rolling Ocean, the Crowd. And of course, the poem is in the book, in both versions, English and Spanish, and I'm going to read it. Out of the rolling ocean, the crowd, came a drop gently to me, whispering, I love you. Before long I die. I have traveled a long way merely to look on you, to touch you, for I could not die till look on you, for I fear I might afterward lose you. Now we have met, we have looked, we are safe. Return in peace to the ocean, my love. I too am part of the ocean, my love. We are not so much separated. Behold the great rondure, the cohesion of all, how perfect. But as for me, for you, the irresistible cease to separate us. As for an hour carrying us diverse, yet cannot carry us diverse forever. Be not impatient, a little space. Know you, I salute the air, the ocean, and the land. Every day at sundown, for your dear sake, my love. So, in response, I continue, starting the book. In the crowd. I thought of him ever since, someone I never met. The only sensible thing to do was to trust the rolling ocean. In love with a stranger, in love with a stranger, name unknown, face I've never seen. Thinking of this person, I start to see him coming from you. When pensive, you look at me. Infinite caresses contained in hands. We remain in silence under the kisses, under the shadows of kisses never delivered. The country nobody visited. Those were days of silence. Sunrises washed by the rainbow tears. Fields of tall grass bent by the passing of the northern wind. Then the world was a constant questioning, the habit of always the right word, the open smile. Yet, hands tired of drawing in the air, landscapes no longer familiar, and at night lies alone the country nobody visited. Summer, a conversation longed for in the intimate voice of silence, a secret shared in the complicity of innocence. Surrendered to beauty, we get closer. The sweetest fruit ripens. Down river. In the furrows made by those stones dislodged by the current are the tracks of past sorrows. The river goes on indifferent to the sky reflected in its surface. The wind pushes this unattainable body. Perhaps you would like to know, for the first time, Canadian geese made a stop, and on Sunday, a couple of bald eagles flew over the garden. Pheasants high among the wild roses, and pines swaying tirelessly, stop calling your name only when the first star shines in the early night. Back from the infinite blue, the cardinal returns to the top of the tallest tree. Every day at dawn, I recover in my arms the original caresses when our bodies rediscovered one another. You stole the moon from me. It's just a white sphere in the dark, yet many share their most secret feelings with the moon. Alone or in couples, lovers have always trusted. In mysterious ways, this silent accomplice conducts its power on all that, when watching the night sky, find in its shelter the perfect confidant. This is a long poem, the one I'm going to read next, and the title is Poem of Life. Because of you, there is dawn and dusk everywhere, and a star dress for a color. It is for you in the streets traffic lights signal and children run on roller skates. To voice your name, my lips hunger and savor every syllable until I've said. For your gaze and your swagger, the uniformed doormen tweet like a sparrow. Just to see you, the spiders lower themselves and spin their webs at your feet. For your hands alone, rain changes into dew, and snow falls in myriad flakes. From your breath come luscious kisses, and tenderness appears everywhere. But when you depart, as in the blink of an eye, fear spreads everywhere. It is for you alone the newspaper boy hawks his extra, and the swallow sings your name. Along the contours of your body melts the frozen river that brings nature to flower. At night, as you sleep, one by one dreams come just to keep you warm. It is for your embrace the arms of the windmill turn, and leaf trees cry out the winter. Having you near, everything you touch comes beauty, and so that you should hear them, children in a school are taught to say, I love you. Sorry. So continuing in this line, the next poem is titled Song. 1 second. And I believe gratitude for everything that happened in your life, every person, everything, every experience you had. There is a lesson to learn, and that, I guess this is what inspired this song. Today, I'd like to invite you to celebrate all the lives that touch ours, everything we love, every cause we pursue. Along this long journey to you, to me, infinite hands, mouths, voices, encounters, brief and long, wove the fabric of who we are. They, not faith, brought us close. By the sea. And because I was in California, and where I spent some of the time of the year writing as well, I am in between New York and the Central Coast usually. So this is by the sea. Walking with you by the sea, we listen to the surf, the ever-changing ocean voice. Little birds, in gracious collective dance, ran back and forth into the last breaking waves. You launched your kite the last time you were 12 years old in the German region of Bavaria. It took you a while, but you managed. More than 50 years after, your kite flew again into a vast sky, as vast as this wild ocean bordered by the desert-like dunes of Oso Flaco. Oso Flaco is a beautiful walk by the ocean, and it's an absolutely beautiful place to walk if you ever visit that region, with dunes, and the dunes border the ocean. This is also the California time while writing this book. Just being outside by the garden, under the shade of the orange tree. White flowers perfume the air, hummingbirds nibble nectar. A gentle breeze refreshes this warm May afternoon in the California Central Coast. And this is back to New York. And this rose bush still exists. It doesn't give flowers anymore. Autumn. At fall's peak, from the rose bush you gave me, I take the last flower in our garden. Its brief fragrant beauty trembles. I keep it in my hand, warm for long, as to delay was inevitable. The heart of a rose beating in the palm of my hand as autumn leaves fall. And since we are back in New York in the book is about love in all of its different manifestations, going for the immediacy of the love of the relationship, the couple, the friend, to the love of what you do, to the love of the human being, to the love of the world, to hope for a co-creation of the world we all want to live in, and also to live for the coming generations. In New York, this poem was inspired by the city, metropolitan. I think of the hands of men, the trust of children, the embrace of lovers, the expression in faces displaying the sorrow and the joy the passing of time beholds. I think of life itself and of the human being in the universal context where we all meet. Walking the streets, I see in this infinite ocean of vulnerable flesh, people hungry, cold, homeless, unloved. Wherever I direct my eyes, I see in this metropolis of contrast people exposed to become someone else. A beggar lies on the walkway, and I almost stop walking on the same side, as it happened the other day when noticing those guys in the subway's hallways. The street is at this time of day exceptionally noisy. Still you can hear, among the sounds of traffic, ambulances, fire trucks, and the anonymous voices of the anonymous ones, the beat of a heart and a scream growing from one street to the other, from one to another, all over town. Winter in New York. Alone, all day by the creek, with naked trees, a stream that soon will be ice, hungry birds crying out the coming of the longest season. Amazing sequence from life to death and into life again, incessant torrent where we are all contained. Rain. Rain falling. Rushed, the birds abandon their flight. The earth furrows widen. The fields are thirsty. Rain falling. A tree smiles silently. Grass becomes green again. Rain falling. In the original womb ripens the seed of sowing. Following the the vague desire of a new fruit. Tao. A dream dreams of itself. A dream created the infinite worlds and placed man at the threshold of this labyrinth, a destiny of permanent encounters, infinite intertwined lives each day. And it is in this intertwinedness we all live, in this interconnectedness, that we can do so much good work for us in this world. Night. Born by dusk, shadows anticipate night. Immersed in darkness, infinite worlds shine. Our destiny is written in the calligraphy of the stars. And this destiny is all up to us. Yeah. So, I'm going to conclude the reading of some of the poems in the book with hope, and with the poem titled That Man. At daybreak, that man would recreate light by the ocean. He paused there, netting the fish of the sea of truth. From a fading blue, the sun descends in the horizon. The earliest star lights the candelabra of night. Then he would walk among the people. I see the generous and free, others chained by greed. They are the ones that deaden the human impulse to soar. Ambitiously, they look out to the sky to clutch in fear the captive earth in their sterile grasp. As he walked, deciphering the human enigma became more hopeful. The time will come for light to reflect in persons as it always does in mirrors. So, thank you so much.